Greetings, everyone. Time, I think, to revisit a topic that I covered fairly in-depth last Halloween. Namely, horror movies that look like home movies. The sequel. Today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, last year, you may recall, I did a video entitled Horror Movies That Look Like Home Movies. And in it, I talked about the rise of this now seemingly quite popular subgenre of horror, namely horror movies that try to make it look like they're just kind of shot on the fly and as it happened. Like reality TV meets horror movies, that sort of thing. You know what I'm talking about. And I got to address a little something that was brought up again and again and again in the comments. And that was all these people who were all bent out of shape because I didn't mention Cannibal Holocaust. Citing Cannibal Holocaust as the true beginning of that subgenre. Now, okay, granted, Cannibal Holocaust was the first really notable movie to do that sort of thing, essentially creating fake, real footage. In this case, it was a documentary crew that had gone to film this group of cannibals and do a little documentary about them and ended up becoming dinner. A little while later, the footage is discovered, and then a good chunk of the movie is spent looking at the actual, genuine, discovered footage. Apparently it was so realistically done and the effects were so convincing that the director was actually taken to court because they thought he had murdered the cast. Well, needless to say, the case was thrown out pretty quick when he brought the cast into the courtroom to prove that they were still very much alive, and then went on to describe how they did the various blood and guts effects in the so-called real footage. But one of the things that added to the illusion, of course, was the cast members had to sign a contract saying they wouldn't do interviews or anything for a period of, I think it was a year after. So basically, they couldn't do anything for a year after making this movie to further the illusion that it was all real. But it was all just a big marketing ploy. That's all it was. And, well, it kind of blew up in their faces. But it has since become known as one of the greatest films of that type, simply because the effects are so convincing and it looks real a lot of the time. Now, having said all that, I have to confess I have not actually seen the film. I've just been told so much about it and pointed to so many articles about it that I've become something of an authority on it. Pretty funny, considering I haven't seen the damn movie. Well, maybe not an authority, but I know enough to say that I know about it and I'm aware of it. Now, having given you all that information, what relevance is it to the previous video, and why didn't I mention it? Well, it's very simple. Now, obviously, I didn't mention it first because I hadn't seen it, but second because I don't consider it the start of the subgenre. I consider it a notable film, yes, of course. And obviously, it's the first time that that kind of thing was ever done. But it stood on its own for a very long time. For a very long time, it was really the only movie ever done like that. There may have been a few here and there that just kind of were done and forgotten about, but nobody's ever mentioned them to me, so I don't know what I can tell you. But as far as my knowledge goes, Cannibal Holocaust was made, it was controversial, it was a big hit with horror fans, and then another movie like it was never done. The whole point I was trying to make in that previous video, and why I cited films like The Last Broadcast and The Blair Witch Project as the true start of the subgenre of reality horror, was because they are. No, they weren't the first ones ever to do it, but they were the ones that kicked off the current craze. You get it now? That's what I was getting at. The Last Broadcast was the first modern film to do it, with digital cameras and whatnot, but The Blair Witch Project was the first to be really popular, and essentially single-handedly kicked off this whole subgenre of reality-style horror films that we enjoy now. So Cannibal Holocaust, while it can easily be said to be the first of its kind, was not the start of the subgenre, because it wasn't until some 30 years later that it actually became a subgenre. Call it ahead of its time, because clearly it was. And it's one that I definitely need to see one of these days. Okay, so having got all that out of the way, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I don't have as big a stack of them as I did last year, simply because I haven't seen as many of them this past year. And there's really no point in repeating what I said in the previous video, because you can just go and watch the previous video. I'll put a link to it in the description, by the way, if using YouTube search box is a little too cumbersome for you. Okay, so let's take a look here. Well, I can't talk about this genre without talking about one of the biggest hits in the past year in this subgenre, Paranormal Activity. Sadly, I missed this in theaters, but I think it's one that's actually best watched on home video anyway, because then you really get that home video feel sitting alone in your living room at night. So Annetta and I watched this. She was kind of half watching while she was on her laptop at the time, and I was just totally engrossed by it. Now, a lot of people like to ask, did you find it scary? Because a lot of people were really freaked out by this movie. I know a lot of people who saw this who are the most cynical, jaded people you could ever hope to meet, and it freaked them out. So that really intrigued me, and I'd been wanting to see this for a very long time. And one of my viewers, Dan the Man 15, actually sent this to me, along with several other movies, by the way, in a package a little while ago. He actually sent sort of a horror package, and I guess not too coincidentally, one of the other movies we'll be talking about today is also from that package. So what did I think of Paranormal Activity? Well, was it scary? Yes, definitely. I thought it was very scary. The nighttime scenes especially, with the night camera and everything, and showing everything that happened while they were sleeping, that was scary as hell, and that was really well done. I was very, very impressed by those scenes. Now, the biggest problem I had with Paranormal Activity was the characters, or more specifically, the husband. I just hated the husband character, and I couldn't wait to see him get what he had coming to him. It's like, yeah, okay, honey, don't call the psychic. Please, honey, don't call the guy who's an expert in this sort of thing. I'd much rather use Google and solve the problem for you, because I think that's the better way to go. As Planet Bierwagen would say, douche! And then to make matters worse, she's trying to explain to him that this is not a nice spirit. This is an evil spirit of some kind that's plaguing me, and you really shouldn't mess around with it. Let's call in the expert. So what does the douche husband do? Well, he decides to start mocking and taunting and aggravating this evil demonic entity plaguing them. Yeah, that's gonna help. Yeah, the husband character really was a huge weak point for me in the movie. Can you tell? Is that obvious? Yeah. In terms of the whole execution of the concept and the scare scenes and everything, I thought those were extremely well done. But God, that husband character, I just wanted to slap the shit out of him every time he opened his mouth. And I was like, you know, you're a reasonably attractive woman. You seem reasonably intelligent. Yeah, you've got some serious mental issues due to psychic trauma that's plagued you your entire life, but otherwise you seem okay. Why did you hook up with this guy? And then, of course, we see the massive house, and it's like, he's apparently rich. That's why. Ladies, don't marry for money. Get a nice poor cartoon geek like me instead. You'll be much happier. Douche! And if you're ever haunted by some evil, malevolent, demonic spirit that wants to rip your lungs out and show them to you, damn straight we're calling the psychic! And yeah, there is, of course, the sequel out now, which I have not seen yet because I'm poor and can't afford to go to the theater, but I will see it eventually. Probably when it comes out on DVD and another viewer sends it to me. So next up, one you'll recall I mentioned last year was Wreck. I know it's technically recording, okay? You don't have to leave me comments about it. Does it say recording on the cover? No, it says rec. I don't care. You're talking to how many videos have I done? You don't think I know what rec means? Of course it means recording. Or record. Whatever. Who cares? Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Stop leaving me comments about it. Thanks. So, Wreck. Fucking great movie. Great stuff. And I was really excited to hear there was a sequel in the works. So in that wonderful horror-themed package from Dan the Man, he also sent me the sequel to Wreck. Now, I had heard really mixed reviews about this, being very careful to avoid spoilers, of course. So I was really curious as to how it was going to fare in comparison to the original, because I really, really enjoyed the original a lot. I still have not seen Quarantine, though from the comments I got on the previous video, it's apparently almost a shot-for-shot remake of the original, so if you've seen the original, why bother? If I want to see every shot of the original, I'll just watch the original again. Anyway, in my case, I really enjoyed Wreck 2, and I thought it was an outstanding sequel. One thing that's really cool about this, I'm not going to give away any of the plot for you, don't worry, but one thing that's really cool about this is it literally picks up right where the first one ends. This is as proper a sequel as it gets. It completely, 100%, flawlessly connects to the original in a lot of ways you don't even see coming. But the thing that's cool about it is it takes concepts from the original and expands on them in ways that make sense and work with the original. You can tell after watching this that there is a grand plan at work here, that the creators of this series planned it to be a series and have a saga in mind. And that's really cool, I think. I think it's really great that there has been some clear planning ahead with this. Again, I want to say things, but I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen it, so I'm not going to give it away. But let me just say this. What you think the zombies are from watching the first one is not actually what they are. And when you actually get the explanation in this one, it's like a light going off. You're just like, whoa, that actually makes sense now that I think back to the events of the first one. Because when you see the first one, there's certain things that just don't quite click. Like, for example, we know that it's a viral infection causing it, right? And that's pretty typical for a zombie movie, right? But here's the thing, is with a zombie movie, typically the character needs to die first, and then there's a bit of a waiting period, and then the zombification kicks in, and they come back to life and try to rip your face off. Did you notice that in Wreck, there's almost no waiting time at all? And sometimes it's not necessarily clear if the person has actually died or not. They just suddenly become this ravenous creature out to suck your brains out through your eye sockets. Did you ever notice that? Well, if you just watch the first one, you may think that's a bit of an inconsistency with established zombie rules. But watch the second one. Watch the second one, and I guarantee you, by the end of the second one, the reason why that happens will be painfully, obviously, in your face, clear as day. And it makes perfect sense. And you remember how I was saying I was kind of sick of the zombie movies? Yeah, well, Wreck is an exception in my books, because they actually take an interesting twist on it that I'm really enjoying where it's going. I'm enjoying it a lot. And the best part is, apparently there's 2 more movies in the works. The first 2 have been so staggeringly successful. I mean, they're international hits. There's no question. The first 2 have been so successful, they're actually planning 2 more. One is a prequel that occurs before the first one and gives you more of the backstory, I'm guessing. And then the next one will be a sequel occurring after the events of Wreck 2. So, lots of good stuff coming up. So, the third one is apparently coming out in 2011, and the fourth one is slated to come out in 2012. So, we got 2 more years of Wreck to enjoy. How fucking cool is that? Yeah. So if you have not seen these yet, don't let the fact that they're subtitled put you off. Seriously, don't let subtitles put you off. There are so many good movies in other languages that really benefit from being watched in their native language, because you get the natural emotion and performance of the actors, right? And the natural inflection of the speech and whatnot. I mean, I don't mind dubbing so much in cartoons because it's a cartoon, but I know a lot of anime purists are probably cringing right now. I'll watch anime subtitled most of the time for the performances of the Japanese actors. But in terms of dubbing, I mind it a lot more in foreign movies, because in foreign movies it just gets so awkward so fast. The lips don't match, and the emotion isn't even close to the same. As hard as those voice actors, God bless them, try, they just don't get it. most of the time. Not that they don't get it up here, but they just don't nail the performance as well as the original actors who were actually there on the set reacting to the things, whatever's going on. So, yeah, in all seriousness, check out Wreck. If you enjoy a good zombie movie and you don't mind it taking some very interesting and unique twists along the way, check them both out. Watch them both back to back. Make a double bill of it, and you will not regret it. It is fucking epic. It is just amazing what they're doing with this series. And I, for one, cannot wait to see where it goes next. Alrighty, well, that's actually it. I don't have any more horror movies that look like home movies that I've watched recently. You may have gathered that because I talked about those three so much. Yeah, I've still got to see Cloverfield. I haven't seen Diary of the Dead. Paranormal Activity 2, obviously. What else? There's some others out there I can't even remember off the top of my head. Those, I think, are the top three. They're kind of on my need to see them at some point list. Yeah. Anyway, that's it from me to you for now. Next time, what are we going to talk about? Probably more zombie movies, because I've got a lot of them. Alright. So we'll talk about more zombie movies next time. So until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara. Having given you a summary of a movie I haven't even seen, why is this relevant? Well, now, having given you that bit of Now, having given you... Why can't I talk? No, that was the right word. My brain is turning to mush now. Douche! Douche! And obvious. Now, a lot of people... Douche! So next up, one... Douche! Wait a minute. I'm getting so ahead of myself, I'm forgetting the basics here. Extras! What do we got for extras? Well, on Paranormal Activity, we have the alternate ending, and that's it. Yeah, whoop-de-doo. In watching the alternate ending, honestly, I feel that the theatrical ending worked better, because the theatrical ending left it a little bit more open, whereas the alternate ending was a very final ending, shall we say. And just the tone of it and the execution of it, I didn't think worked as well as the theatrical ending. I like the theatrical ending better. So, alternate ending, and that's it. The original Wreck, we have... nothing, apparently. We have nothing. And Wreck 2 is also bare bones. We have nothing. I'm not even sure where the heck this DVD came from. I have not seen this on shelves. I haven't seen it on Amazon. Nothing. I don't know where the heck you got it, Dan the Man, but I am very grateful to you for it. It's from a company called Eurocult. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not complaining because I got to see it and it was freaking awesome. Alright, that's definitely it from me to you for now, so until next time, sayonara again.